Good morning. Yes, it's me, it's Michael, and it's my Saturday soundtrack here on Sheffield Hospital Radio. Thanks to Paul for those last few hours. Thank you to you for joining me this morning. And what an excellent show, he says, setting the bar high, that I think we've got for us today, because I've got another great guest. It's Ruth, who's Chief Executive at Sheffield Children's Trust. But I've also got some fantastic tunes, so keep on listening. So whether you're a patient on one of our wards, whether you're a member of staff working this weekend, or maybe you've got the weekend off to enjoy the sun, or maybe you're just out and about around Sheffield or further afield, keep on listening. Remember, if you want to pick a song, you can do. You can email me, studio@sheffieldhospitalradio.co.uk, or you can WhatsApp us on 07900 339 429. Keep listening. We've got some news, we've got some conversation, and we've got some fantastic tunes. And we thought, given that it's Yorkshire Day today, we'd start with a bit of the Arctic Monkeys. But if you think you know a good Yorkshire tune or artist, give us a shout. Otherwise, keep on listening. We'll say hello to Ruth shortly. Arctic Monkeys there with Mardy Bum. So, yes, a fantastic guest today. It's always lovely to hear about the different health services that we've got across the city here in Sheffield. And I've got Ruth with me today. Morning, Ruth.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. How are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. It's nice to have another beautiful sunny day in Sheffield, isn't it?
Most definitely. And have you travelled far today?
No, about 20 minutes, just outside of Sheffield. So, yeah, not too far at all.
And can we mention you've brought someone with you? I know she wants to sit quietly in the background.
Yeah, my gorgeous daughter, Fabian, who's 28 and, works very hard in lots of different creative industry, but she's come to just find out a little bit more about behind the scenes on radio as well. So you never know, we might be able to get her to say something later. But for now, she's watching.
Sorry, Fabian. I thought it was only fair to kind of mention who was in the room and everything. Well, hopefully we'll say hello properly to her later on. But thank you for joining me. How long have you been Chief Exec at Sheffield Children's?
I've been Chief Exec for 5 years now. It feels like it's gone ever so quickly. But I've always worked in the NHS, so it's amazing to be in my home city. Chief Exec in one of our amazing organisations. So.
Well, I'm really keen to hear more about Sheffield Children's. I was going to say you, but not you personally. The organisation celebrating a big birthday this year.
We are. We're celebrating being 150 years old. So on the 14th of November, that's when that's our birthday of being 150. So yeah, I look forward to telling you a bit more about that.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. The radio station celebrating its 50th birthday.
I saw that, yeah.
I understand lots of big celebrations in the city. So I want to hear about that. And then with it being Yorkshire Day, what great time in Pride of Yorkshire you're going to tell us about as well.
I'll tell you a bit more about all of our lions, lionesses and cubs that are across South Yorkshire. So looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Now, you've brought some songs along, which is great. And this first song is an absolute fantastic one. Listeners might be used to hearing this at Christmas, or in my house usually starts about September time when my daughter watches this film. But tell us about this first song that you've picked, Ruth.
Yeah, so this song is a real favourite of all of our family, actually. But it's, as I say, usually you hear it at Christmas because it's part of the nativity in one of the films that you can see all the time through Christmas period. But it's just such a joyful, joyful song. And part of the reason why we love it is because we love the film anyway. It's a brilliant film. But also just the narrative behind the film and the song itself is all about children who are a bit nervous, want to try something different out. They get involved in a massive play and then they put on this production, and there's a line in it which is a child saying, "I'm brimming with self-confidence. I hope you feel it too." I just love it. And when I became Chief Executive, I set myself up a little playlist of songs to, G me up and get me ready for my interview, and this was on it. And whenever I'm a bit nervous or thinking about something, this is the song that I would go to,
lovely.
Because it just brings joy. Yeah. We play it at home in the kitchen and have a dance to it. This is Sparkle and Shine, which is from the Nativity film.
Brill. Thanks, Ruth. I think that's got the show off to a fantastic start, Ruth.
Amazing. I love
That
it.
is a great song. And now you've told that story and everything. That's brilliant. So, yeah, thank you ever so much for joining us. I think personally, as a kind of a parent in Sheffield, how lucky we are with having our dedicated children's hospital, children's trust. And I'm sure many of our listeners might have had similar experience to me where we've been down the A&E at the children's. That's a bit we kind of know as we drive past Weston Park, and we've been in there 2 or 3 times in a run, and you start to worry kind of thing. But that's kind of how some people will see the children's. But kind of what's the story from the inside? What you describe the children's trust to us, and why we're so fortunate to have a dedicated, because that's quite unusual.
Yeah, it is unusual. So Sheffield Children's is a specialist, what we call paediatric or children's trust. We provide NHS care, and we provide that care to over 500,000 children and young people a year. Lots of them do come from Sheffield. An awful lot come from South Yorkshire or the region. And some actually come from right across England, because we provide really highly specialised care as well. And either that's about children coming to our sites, or it's about our clinicians and consultants going out to children in other places as well. So we run clinics everywhere and across England, as far as Wales Island, actually.
Really?
We've got somebody who would go across there a couple of times a year. So, yeah, as I say, lots of people will know the hospital. We're based in the city centre and not far away from lots of the, places like the Hallamshire and others. And in that hospital, we have 150 beds. So there's lots of wards where children and young people might stay for one night, or they might stay for a long time, actually, several weeks or months. We have theatres where we do lots of operations and things, outpatients, so people coming just for a visit or for an appointment of something and a checkup. And then we've got lots and lots of support services. So there's either general services that people might need on a day-to-day basis, but also then specialist services that they need. And as you say, lots of people, your listeners might maybe know somebody who's just been once. They've come to A&E or the emergency department for one thing and that's it. But we have some children who they're born with a condition of some kind, and then we'd be treating them all the way through their childhood until they transition at any age after 16. So there's some families that we get to know really well. But beyond our hospital walls as well, we provide lots of other services. So some of those include things like an Embrace transport service. So we transfer over 2,000 patients a year across the region. So really poorly patients who maybe need to move from one hospital to another. We would transfer those around either by road or by helicopter. So that's a really specialist service as well. And there'd always be a clinical team that goes alongside that patient. We provide lots of services in the community, so health visiting, vaccinations, things that you would know out with your GP in many different services as well. And then we provide lots of mental health services. So those would be things like there's a big programme of work that Sheffield has really got behind called Healthy Minds, which is about training schools, teachers and students about good mental health and well-being and learning about that early. But then we've got other services where if children need that, so they're called Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, or CAMS, people know them as. So they'll be out and about in Sheffield. But then we've got beds. So if patients are really critically poorly from a mental health condition, then we've got beds that are over near Crystal Peaks in Sheffield. So there's about 30 of those. And therefore our region, so children come to us from right across Yorkshire and Humber into those beds as well. And then we've got lots of specialist services, which are things like genetics, looking at rare diseases. We do research. We're the only centre that's got a specialist children's paediatric commercial research centre as well. So there's quite a lot across the country, but the only one is in Sheffield that's paediatrics. So there's only 3 hospitals, actually, ourselves, Alderhay and Great Ormond Street, who are dedicated NHS organisations just to children. So it's I say it's easy to take it for granted when we live locally.
It's on your doorstep.
I've been here in Sheffield since I was 14, and you kind of just get used to it being part of the landscape, don't you? But the people who provide all the services and all of our, what just makes the organisation tick and work. We've got over 4,000 colleagues, and they are, a vast array of different professions and roles, as there is in any NHS organisation, isn't there? There's so many that sometimes people see, like doctors and nurses, but then lots of others who we don't always. We have 150 volunteers. We have teachers because, of course, you've got to think about children who are in hospital. Then they might be taking their exams. It could be anything, but they need to carry on with their education as well. So there's lots of people who, when a child is in hospital, it is about that kind of immediate thing around what's needed for their healthcare, but their life needs to carry on as well.
And I presume, as you say there, that kind of range of services that you provide, from the child in Broomhill who falls and breaks the wrist and comes to A&E, through to that, so kind of island, countrywide type services. So kind of adapting to that must be pretty difficult, and getting there's one thing kind of getting on a bus to the children's, but getting on a plane to get there.
Yeah.
And how do you manage some of that care for those patients where you are such a super regional service?
I think sometimes it's that balance of making sure we have planned well. So it either makes sense for patients to come to us, or it makes sense for our consultants or clinicians to go to patients. So, it is an enormous breadth. There's a lot more complexity, I think, than often people realise. They see the hospital and think that's what Sheffield Children's is. But we've got such an enormous talented team who have, we've been at this for 150 years now. So all the time we're refining. And also, of course, now we've got technology, haven't we, that helps us to deliver services in completely different ways. But do you know what? I just think if you think as a child, and you'd know yourself, wouldn't you? If you've been to a hospital or been to an appointment, that's your first experience often of healthcare and the NHS. So it's so important that we make it friendly, warm, easy as possible, so that people have really good, fond memories of coming into health services, because they last a lifetime, don't they?
Absolutely. I know when I talk to my children, they remember the kind of the times they've been fortunate it's just been A&E for that kind of slip, trip, fall type thing. But I suppose that must be really important then. You mentioned earlier about those children that are born with something that then they need to have that support throughout their life. How do you approach that with those children and those families?
Yeah, so one of the things that will be different probably in a children's organisation that's providing healthcare will be, we have a really strong play team. Everybody who's a part of the trust, our complete focus is children and young people. So it means that when we, the porters or those roles that will be working alongside some of our clinicians, everybody understands the importance of what it means to be a child in our environment. So I hope that people will feel that when they come into either the hospital or one of the other sites, because it's warm, it's friendly. The volunteers help to make sure that people feel comfortable, safe, okay to ask. And then those families who are with us for, many, many years, it's about helping to either organise their care as best we possibly can, because some people will have multiple consultants that they see, or nursing care. So that needs a bit of coordination sometimes, doesn't it? They'll have other family members. It costs a lot. There's lots of things to think about when families
costs a lot for the family.
Costs a lot for the family, yeah. And if you think about travel parking, or public transport, And I think, it's more and more, isn't there, that kind of need for us to be thinking about how we're moving care closer to patients rather than patients coming to us all the time in the NHS. But also a big factor for us is making sure children miss as little school as possible. And unfortunately, at the moment, a lot of NHS care is in school time, isn't it? But that's an important factor as well. It's about making sure healthcare fits in with the rest of a child's life.
Yeah, a real kind of child focus.
Yeah.
I'm keen to come back and talk a bit more about that, Ruth. Do you want to kind of introduce this next song, though?
Yeah, I'd love
because you've
to.
picked some great ones.
Thank you. So this next song is by Harry Styles, and what am I? I was going to say infatuated, but I honestly, I absolutely love where Harry Styles is coming from. I love his music. And we were really, really fortunate to get tickets to go and see him at Wembley last month. And I was there with my daughter, Fabian, who's with me, and my son, Dylan, and his girlfriend, Emily. And they both live in London. So I was kind of coming together to go and see him. But the stadium was just, it was a sort of thousands and thousands of people who were just, again, so joyful and together. And he's got this amazing kind of ability to make everyone feel like you're all in this together, let's have a nice time, in this. So I was so impressed, and it kind of left me feeling really good after it for quite a long time. But this song is Treat People with Kindness, and it's one that I think it actually relates a lot to the people who work in the NHS at Sheffield Children's, but everywhere, because it's such an important value of what we do, isn't it? And so treat people with kindness.
I want to come back and talk specifically about the staff that you've got and that focus on children. So brilliant. Thank you, Harry Styles. Katrina and the Waves there, and that was a request. Kate, who's medical secretary to Rachel Foster over in infectious diseases, asked if we could play that for Janet Hansen, who retired yesterday after 33 years working in infectious diseases. So thanks, Janet. Enjoy your retirement, and thanks, Kate, for giving that shout out to her. It's me, Michael. It's my Saturday soundtrack, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Ruth. And Ruth, Chief Exec at Sheffield Children's Trust, you were telling us earlier, and it kind of really made me think, coming from a Sheffield Hospital's adult perspective, the comment you made there about seeing it from a patient's perspective. And so kind of really interested, how do you think staff choose that, or is that something you build in for staff once they're there? And then kind of also in terms of the buildings and the fabric of the place, because children are obviously a different height on the whole to start off with. So really interested how you do centre it around the child.
Yeah. So, and that, of course, what we've got to remember is that goes right from babies through to somebody who might be 16, 17, 18 years old, or sometimes we care for people older than that as well, if they're transitioning and have that need. Our purpose is to provide a healthier future for children and young people, and our aim is that we do that with children and young people in mind in everything that we do. And so from whether that's about designing particular care, I suppose fundamentally it's about how we do that with and for children and young people, because needs are changing all the time. So listening to what's working, what doesn't, is a really important part of that. So that would be a fundamental, it's a foundation really of how you need to work to adapt, keep adapting. And of course, we mentioned technology earlier, that's changing such a lot, isn't it? Young people have access to digital
they don't know a world without.
They don't. And also actually the younger workforce, so people who are coming into work now have a different relationship as well. But the sorts of things it would mean for us would be if we're designing areas, so we've just taken the keys from a new building that we have built through fundraising and money from various different organisations over in Attercliffe in Sheffield. So it's on the Olympic Legacy Park. It's called The Spark, which was named by our children and young people as a memorable kind of name as a building. And it's going to be home to the National Centre for Child Health Technology. And the building is absolutely incredible. So we took the keys on Friday. We will open it to patients in the autumn. But that has been designed with and for children. They've been alongside us all the way. And it goes through from kind of very child-friendly areas, so different heights of things, colours, but also a calm environment, spaces where you could play as well, outside space as well as inside space. And then also it kind of moves into areas that probably we will have research there at universities, there, businesses who are helping us to design technology. So that moves into a different space then, which looks different again. So children are a part of that. We have this amazing youth forum at the Trust, and they've been going for over 10 years now. So big shout out to our young youth forum members. They're the ones that really hold us to account.
Right.
Yeah, they work with us to mainly talk about the things that really matter, and often that is things about how we are much greener than we currently are. So too much paper, wrong light bulbs. Thinking about how we work as an organisation. They challenge us all the time on that. But then also they talk to us about mental health and well-being. So one of the things that really makes a difference as a children's trust, because we are integrated and have physical and mental health care, it means that we've been able to train. So say, for example, a patient comes for some surgery and they have their theatre, go through theatre, have their operation, and then they go onto a ward. I was chatting yesterday to nurses from the surgery ward, and they've been trained in mental health as well. So they know how to care for children and young people who may have trauma from whatever theatre that they've, operation they've had, but also maybe just want to talk about their own well-being as well. So every contact with a child is an opportunity to talk to them about how things are, from a life perspective as well. And then I think the last thing I'd just say is that it's always an opportunity to teach life skills. So a great example of that is, yourself as an adult, when you first start taking paracetamol or a tablet that's, you just think about, don't you? You kind of learn the skill of taking tablets. Well, the earlier children can learn how to take a tablet. So we have something called the Pill School, and that teaches children a life skill, which is about learning how to take a tablet. And it's amazing. It's so effective. But again, starting early.
And what age would you start?
Really young. I mean, obviously, you've got to be able. You've sort of got to be able to swallow well and everything. So you wouldn't go really, really young, but kind of. Probably under 10s onwards. That's, not only is it a life skill for that child, it's easier for parents. It's easier, in terms of just the cost to the NHS, because liquid medication is a lot more expensive. And, you know yourself in terms of using things like Calpol or whatever, that's different as well. And again, for those children who might have long-term conditions or have a need to take a lot of different things, having the ability to do that in different ways really matters.
That's fantastic. And so link that back to your 10 as it's your 150th birthday. I mean, the trust must be so different to 150 years ago, kind of both in terms of the staff that you've got now, the approach, that, I don't know, integration of acute health and physical health and mental health. So paint us a picture. Do you have a sense of what Sheffield Children's Foundation Trust looked like back in
1876? 1876, yeah. So we've had this history club going. Right. So we did a brilliant project with the University of Sheffield, and we had some library interns who have done some projects with us, which our charity helped to fund, looking at some of our archives and just going back into the history and everything. And so they've been working with us to help tell our story. But yeah, in 1876, there were 3 people from Sheffield. So it was a doctor, an architect and a solicitor. They came together and they had a dream, basically, and a vision, which was about saying that they recognised that children needed different type of care. And so they came together, they got a house, which is it's not there now, but just where the university roundabout is, just down there. So very first house, it had 9 beds in it. and we had 29 admissions in our first year. And that was the start of starting to think about how the care for children. And yeah, over the years then, we've obviously moved into different buildings, different accommodation. There's an enormous Sheffield hospital history in terms of all of the hospitals we've had across the city, how they've kind of come together at different times. So there were times where adults and children's were together as well. But for Sheffield Children's, they really recognised, what they wanted to do was to provide care for children of families who couldn't afford it. So that kind of root of this addressing health inequalities was there then. And I mean, sadly, it's still with us today. But it's, that's a very much the kind of sense of community that we've got about everybody being a part of Sheffield Children's is an important bit.
And so the building that we know as a Children's now, how old is that? Do you have a sense of kind of which is the old? Because the bit on the corner, is that the oldest?
That's the oldest. So the bit, I don't know what the date is actually. I should have brought my little book. No, it's okay. But so we gradually kind of moved into different buildings, and then I think this was the third one. So the building on the corner that looks old that's the original one, and then we've kind of built from that. So we're pretty landlocked, really. There's not many spaces to go, so we've been very creative. We put a helipad on it a couple of years ago. There's lots of different parts to it, which does work really well. But yeah, that's the main bit that's standing that people would recognise.
And what's your sense of how kind of healthcare, what's the history that's come through over those 150 years and kind of you cling on to, but also work from as chief executive? So
I think the kind of legacy of the fact that this vision came from three people who thought about, actually there's something we should be doing here, and that kind of community and civic responsibility to do something. It just feels like, I feel proud of kind of standing on the shoulders of that, I guess. And over the years then, we've seen different people who come through the organisation, as you do in the NHS, who are individuals who've got absolute vision about what could be different. I mean, there's things that happened 150 years ago, or even 50 years ago, that you just wouldn't do now. Some of the diets the children had, originally, the history books talk about the beef broth that we would have given and things like that. It all sounds awful. There were open fires in the wards in terms of, before electricity came in, all of those different things. But yeah, the legacy of what we've got after from 150 years is really special. And it's an amazing point to be the chief exec at this point. And what feels really important is that what we're doing at the moment is thinking, how do we build on that legacy then? What's the next 150 years look like? Because we're looking back all the time at people and saying, wow, they invented that, they tested that. Lots of things that came from Sheffield in terms of our manufacturing, working with others to help us test out new X-ray or, different things for children. And that's why the building that I mentioned, the Spark over at Attercliffe, that's about our future look as well, because a lot of technology is in healthcare is designed for adults and then adapted for children. So what we want to move to is designing it with and for children, so that it starts in the right place as well. And that'll be part of our legacy moving forward for our next 150 years.
And what celebrations will you be having? Is there a party and a cake?
We're going to, I hope so. Always cake. So we're planning a kind of a festival of events through November and December. We'll be officially opening the building that I've just mentioned. We are currently changing or updating lots of our outdoor areas, because Sheffield's such a green city, and we've got areas that are fine, but actually in terms of children being outside and, having that space to enjoy with families. So we've at the moment just looking at all of our outdoor spaces so that that's a kind of something that we can celebrate and have a sort of memorial plaque and that kind of thing in there. But we've got lots of opportunity to celebrate with the colleagues who currently work, but also those who have worked with us in the past.
Oh, lovely.
I was invited to a lunch with some nurses who trained. Honestly, they'd been, I don't know, it was about 60 or 70 years ago, they had trained at Sheffield Children's, and they are a group of nurses who still come together and meet for lunch. So they're kind of in their 80s. They come from all over. They meet in Sheffield. And there was about a dozen of them, and they're still sharing stories, and they brought all their photographs, and I took lots of memorabilia with me to go and show them as well. And they had all sorts of stories about how Matron used to have a dog. The dog would just follow them everywhere. Matron would have, the next one didn't have a dog, they had a cat. And then the student nurses would have to go out and buy the pilchards or whatever for the cat. So yeah, it was just so many people have got really long memories, but also you know yourself, don't you? When you work in the NHS, you form lifelong friendships and relationships with people, and it's so nice to see that they're still coming together in that way and still feel as passionate about it. And not only did they remember people and colleagues, they remembered their patients.
And I'm sure there's patients that'll remember them, and
absolutely.
they have such an impact on their lives.
Yeah.
Wow, that's brilliant. Well, we'll come back and talk some more. It's really fascinating, and particularly kind of some of those future ventures that you talked about. But we've got a request in, and we're going to play that. So this is Sarah, who's over at the Northern General, and she's asked if we can play some Taylor Swift, and I always like a bit of Taylor Swift. So here you go, Sarah. She's saying, can we dedicate it to all our amazing colleagues who are just finishing the night shift? So, yeah, hope this gets you home and gets you... thank you for all that you did last night. We're all dancing to Taylor there, aren't we? I thought it was just me that did that. Well, I can't believe the first hour's gone already, but don't forget, we're here 24 hours a day on Sheffield Hospital Radio, so tune in to our other live shows, and tomorrow, it's a big day for Sheffield Hospital Radio. We've got our live broadcast coming from Meadow Hall alongside the Red Shoe Walk, which is hundreds of local people are walking for Sheffield Hospital charities to raise funds for people living with dementia and support their families across Sheffield. And it's hosted by BBC Radio Sheffield's Ellie Colton. She was on my show a couple of weeks ago. And it's a fun, family-friendly event all about community, hope and togetherness. So get yourself down there to do the Red Shoe Walk and say hi to Sheffield Hospital Radio, or tune in tomorrow from 9 till 11. But Ruth, this next song, tell us a bit about that's going to play us up to the news.
Yeah, well, much like what you've just said about that walk, that sense of community is so important, isn't it? And one of the things that I wanted to do within our organisation was set up a choir. I love music. I love singing. I'm not very good at it, but it's a great way of bringing different people together from different backgrounds. And this is our favourite song. So we love singing Country Roads or Take Me Home. We either title, and we've got a brilliant choir master who is so talented and he's very patient with us. So he teaches us how to sing the songs, and we walk around the wards and in outpatients sometimes. So yeah, we love this one. Big shout out to our choir.
I hope you're going to sing along. Welcome back. It's me. It's Michael. It's Saturday morning and it's my Saturday soundtrack, and that was Def Leppard, which was a request from Keely, who was working yesterday at the Hallamshire, and she asked our fantastic volunteers if we could play that for her today. And she was saying yesterday, so I hope she's done it by now, she was asking Rachel, her work colleague, to finally put the kettle on. So I hope she has, and I hope you enjoyed Def Leppard. If you've not heard the first hour, I don't know where you've been. You've missed a treat, but I'm here with Ruth, Chief Executive at Children's. Are you having fun, Ruth?
I'm having a great time, thank you. This is brilliant.
Is it as you expected?
I don't think I quite knew what to expect, but it's nice just to have a bit of time, sit down, have a conversation for lovely. A couple of hours. So yeah, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for giving up your Saturday morning. I just love it, just kind of hearing about roles and organisations, and particularly kind of the fantastic stuff we do for patients and families across Sheffield. So we're going to talk a bit about fundraising that you do at Sheffield Children's, and colleagues, listeners may have seen some of the lions. How many lions are there across the city?
We've got, there's 300,
Wow.
150 lions and lionesses, and then 150 cubs.
So we're going to hear more about those, but we thought the best thing to play for that, do you want to, you pick this song? There was a bit of a debate in the studio about which lion-related song.
Oh, we like quite a lot, and we like a few puns as well. Yeah. So, bring them in. But this is The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Tight fit. The Lion Sleeps Tonight, and there's 150 lions across South Yorkshire, and we've spotted them, and they're all completely individual and different. So tell us about that, Ruth. Why are they there, and how did it come about?
So Pride of Yorkshire is about celebrating Sheffield Children's, and there are 150 lions and lionesses to celebrate 150 years. And they're right across South Yorkshire because that just represented our patient population that comes from beyond Sheffield as well. So they're out at the moment. They're all over each of the different areas. And there are also 150 cubs and 147 schools helped to design those. So all the schools have taken part in events
all of
South Yorkshire. Yeah. Wow. So the schools have designed and painted, and they're raising money for them with their cubs. And you can see those in different places as well. So nearby to where we are today at Western Park Museum, there's some in there. They're dotted around in different spaces. But each lion and lioness has been painted by, there's 85 different artists who have some done, have done two. They've done a lion and a lioness. And they really range from people like Pete McKee. So he's done a brilliant one that's related to the British Transplant Games that are coming to Sheffield in August. That's outside the City Hall. And then other artists who are not professional, they're people who have put in a design, had an idea. So really it's a bit of an art sculpture that goes right across South Yorkshire. They are absolutely beautiful to go and see. And then there's ones that are stand pride of place outside Sheffield Wednesday or outside United or over at Rotherham as well, in terms of, into different sports venues. They're music related, green related, lots of different themes as well. So you can find out, there's a website if you go to Pride of Yorkshire. If you Google that, there's a website that tells you all about each of the lions, gives you a little bit of what's the story behind each one and what the artist has come from. And it's either a very personal story, it's something that connects with the hospital.
And is the process then that people submitted a design and there's a committee or someone somewhere took all those designs and agreed it, and then that artist physically paints it on the lion, so they went somewhere or someone drops it off around their house or studio and they paint it?
Well, we're not dropping them off because they're massive if you've seen any of them, but we at the marketplace down at the moor were very kind in lending us some of the space that they have behind the scenes. So an awful lot of them were painted there, and we had a viewing window so you could actually watch some of the artists. Wow. So for some of them, this is months and months of work. We obviously worked with an organisation who helped create the actual sculptures as well. They've painted them, very different kind of stories about why they are painted in the way that they are. And then the schools have done theirs. And then so that's created a trail then across South Yorkshire. So you can get a map that tells you where all of them are. And then you can sign up as well on the website. There's lots of different activities that relate to it. So you could do Race Across Yorkshire for an afternoon, and the team will set you tasks. Wow. And each line's got points attached to it and things like that, and a bit like Race Across the World or that kind of concept as well.
And I presume it builds that kind of community of who gets to see them all, who's seen everyone first, who can get from one to another or across them all the quickest. Is that
so we've already had 20 people or pairs who have submitted that they have seen every lion and cub so far. So yes, people, there's 7,000 people have already signed up to doing the trail. And then you can sort of sign it off on your map, or you can do it digitally as well. So yeah, it creates a real sense of community. And then it's the Sheffield Children's charity that are doing that, and I'm really proud to be a trustee. I mean, we're so lucky to have two amazing hospital charities in the city, aren't we? And the charity has developed all of this concept, worked with us. They've been celebrated being 50 years old this year as well. And so what they're part of that then is about raising money. It's about celebrating the trust, but it's about raising money for our emergency department. So we're aiming out of the project to raise £2 million.
And how will you raise that money? Are they sold at the end?
So partly it's about donations through the whilst the trail is on. The trail ends on the 7th of September, and then towards the beginning of October, so between the 2nd and 4th of October, there's an opportunity to see all of the Pride together. So we take over a car park at Meadowhall, and you can see all of the lions and lionesses together. And honestly, it's amazing when you see them. We had them at the arena for the launch event. Yeah, they're so beautiful, and it's just like this amazing pride that you see. Yeah. And so after we've had the farewell event, then we will auction them off, and we'll auction them off in different places. So we'll be working together with Doncaster, for example, and Sheffield. So through October and November, there'll be auction events. So anybody can bid to get one as well. And then we have some mini ones as well. Bought you one today, Michael.
I know, that's so kind.
You can have a little go at
we'll
painting
have a Sheffield
a
Hospital
mini
Radio
one. Yeah, perfect. So you can either do it yourself. It's good for a bit of crafting, mindfulness.
Yeah.
Or you can gift it to somebody else if you want. But you can paint it. You could decoupage, which is where you use PVA glue and just stick paper onto it. My daughter's laughing at me now because that's what I like. I like doing that.
Have you got a whole kind of shelf of these at home?
We will do. We'll be designing them. We had a competition at work when there was the bears.
I was about to ask about
Sheffield, a few years ago, and that was based on the bear that's in Botanical Gardens in the bear pit. And so when we did that, we all had a big competition about who could design different types of bears, who's in the mini ones. And honestly, some people who you never thought would be very creative. Yeah. We had a Shakespeare one, a Strictly one, all sorts of different things.
I mean, you see those bears around and about now. We've got one at the Northern by the palliative care unit. There's one on one of the shops I always see down Ecclesall Road in the window and things. And were there two bears? Because I'm thinking of two styles, or was it just the bears we've done previously, or have you done other ones?
Before the bears was the elephant. So I think you've got an elephant at the palliative care unit as well. Right. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, so I mean, it definitely brings a kind of sense of community. And with the bears and the elephants, we did those in Sheffield.
And I'm going to put you on the spot. So do you have a favourite? Are you allowed? Is it like me asking your favourite child? Kind of. Do you have a favourite lion?
Do you know what? They're all so beautiful. There's one that's like, it's outside the town hall in Sheffield, and it's gold. And it is absolutely beautiful. It's like when the sun catches it in different spaces. So it's not got a painting on it, but it's kind of been painted in almost different textures of gold, I guess. And it'll just look a bit Strictly, so it's a bit kind of glittery and everything. But that is lovely. I love that one. There's one that has been dedicated to the NHS as well. Okay. And that one will be gifted to us at the end. So we'll need to think about where we want to put that across Sheffield Children's. When we did the bears, we got gifted a special Theo, which is the mascot of the charity. That stands outside the hospital site where the outpatients is.
And I presume they're built. Yeah, what are they made from?
I don't. Well, now you're asking me technical questions.
You kind of think I want to go and knock on them.
Yeah, they're kind of weirdly very, very strong. But I'm going to say they're light. They're not. You couldn't pick one up. Yeah. But yeah, they...
So they will last.
They will
You'll
last.
have that,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. I mean, we have, at the moment, while they're out and about across South Yorkshire, we have volunteers who work with us in the charity, and they will go, in fact, my sister does it, big shout out to her, thank you, Kath, and they go around and they will clean the lions, check out for any damage, anything that's happened. We ask people not to sit on them, but you just don't know, do you, what happens. So yeah, they go around with a little kit making sure they're okay each week, and that's brilliant because it means that we can just care for them as well.
Brill. So people to look out for them.
Yes, please
go on the, so you said Google
Pride of Yorkshire,
and you can get the trail and the different tasks
any
there.
events, just different ideas, where everything is,
And then 2nd to the 4th of October for the big
for Meadow Hall,
Hall,
the farewell event.
and then look out then for details of buying one.
Auction,
Wow.
and lots of different companies or individuals put club together to buy one. So, if you fancy one, it might not have a garden big enough, but
Fantastic. Well, brilliant. That's great, Ruth. We're going to come back, and we've heard so much about Sheffield Children's Trust, but I'm really keen to hear about you and your journey to Chief Executive. But we've got another request in. This is from Emma, who's listening at the Hallamshire. And she notes it's Yorkshire Day, which is fantastic with the Pride of Yorkshire. So she's asked for ABC and the Look of Love and asked if we can dedicate this to the staff working hard and the fantastic physio team. Thanks, Emma. This one's for you.
Brilliant song.
Look of Love there, ABC. If you've just joining us, I've got Ruth, Chief Exec of Sheffield Children's Foundation Trust. And Ruth, we were talking earlier about 150 years of Sheffield Children's Trust, but one of those landmarks is that you were the first female Chief Exec.
Yeah.
How does that feel, kind of coming in after all those years? And then you mentioned how proud you felt being a Chief Exec at this time.
Yeah, I don't think I quite realised it until we started digging into the history, and then you kind of realise actually it's a landmark thing of being the first female. Mainly I feel pride really in being in this role. I think one of the things that's interesting, having become a chief executive, is people often assume that it's something you've always wanted to do, that you've kind of got a route that's taken you there. And that's just not the case for me at all. I think, if I told my 10 or 18-year-old self this is where I'd ended up, I'd be shocked, I think. So it just feels such a privilege to be in this kind of role, and you're stewarding the organisation, aren't you, for a particular point in its lifetime, and you'll become history another time as well.
And so what legacy, you talk about that history, kind of, Jeff, if there's still kind of hospital radio in 50 years time and kind of the chief exec of the Children's Trust is on at that point, how would you want them to reflect back on Ruth Brown, chief exec, back in 2026?
Ooh, that's a big
Because I'm presuming you won't still be chief exec in 50 years' time.
Well,
no, what's the legacy? What's the
not.
legacy you think that you want to leave, and how do you think about leaving that legacy and kind of memory?
Yeah, I guess so. I've probably not thought that far forward, but I think ultimately, so there's a core thing about the fact that our purpose is children, young people, and their families, and I want everybody who comes into contact with us as an organisation, whether that's a colleague, a volunteer, somebody who works in our coffee shop, but obviously our patients and families, I want people to feel that and know that. And of course, there'll be times where we don't get it right, but it's that sense of children and young people they're our core business, but that it matters to us. So that's an important part for me, but also that we work in a way that is that our values are really honest, and the kind of compassion. See, I've got more nervous now. It's just difficult talking about yourself, isn't it? I can feel my daughter looking at me in a.
Careful what you say, Mum.
It's just you think about your words differently, don't you? But no, honestly, I think what I'd hope is that people remember how I made them feel in how they were contributed to the life of Sheffield Children's, whoever they are, and that it matters to me. It matters to me what people's experience is. It matters to me that we spot potential and really develop people, that we support them, give really, good support along the way. And I hope people see and know that. And then there's obviously things that we will do different. So there'll be a legacy which is about our new building. There'll be things that we have landmark or moon landing moments, we call them. What are those, what are those moments in time that happen whilst I've been in post? And we've had some amazing ones around our helipad or, the new building that I mentioned in Attercliffe.
And what are the moments for you? Because I imagine as chief exec, you can go anywhere, talk to anyone. It's your organisation. What are some of those moments and highlights from the last few weeks that have really kind of been a highlight for you?
I think more often than not, it'll be about getting out and talking to people, and not in the kind of big formal meetings that we have to do, but those conversations that you're having with children and young people, with their families, or with colleagues in different environments, and every day just bursting with pride about how the little interactions that people have, or the or big things that life-changing moments that people have as well. And I was at a session yesterday where we had young people from across South Yorkshire with us, and we were talking to them about the routes into either longer term education or employment. So there's been a lot of work nationally happening at the moment about 1 million young people, so 16 to 24 kind of age, who are not in education or training or employment. And that's a big problem for us. And so having those conversations with them about what can we do to help? And although we are an NHS provider, I genuinely believe that we've got the opportunity to make a difference to a young person's life outside of that NHS provision. So those kind of interactions on a day-to-day basis, they're what really matter. It's what keeps me going. If I've ever had a day that feels particularly heavy or stuff that's really difficult, I just have a wander around different departments chatting to people. And they're always brilliant conversations.
And what's the thing that has come across your desk or in your diary that kind of our listeners would think, gosh, would never expect the chief exec to get involved with that, and maybe you didn't expect to get involved with? That's kind of that bit you thought, gosh, I didn't realise that was on my job description, that was unique, strange. Is there anything that...
We have... I'll get all sorts of things from pigeons to things that are kind of troubling people on a day-to-day basis. I really try and kind of have a policy which is wanting to be approachable. So people do talk to me about lots of different things, and what I've learned over the years is you have to be really careful at not just taking everybody's things on, don't you? Because actually I sometimes I can sort it and sometimes I can't, or there's other people who are already sorting it, and you kind of get in the way a bit, don't you? One of the things that I've probably feel really proud of, but we've not achieved it yet, is working with our youth forum. So one of the things the youth forum talked to me about years ago was that we have a car park across the road from the hospital. Is the Q Park that's kind of directly opposite. And although you can walk up the hill or down the hill to cross the road, people don't. They cross straight from the car park into where our outpatients is. And one of the things that we've been talking about for years with the council is, can we get a crossing there, because it feels dangerous. And lots of people have been involved in this. Estates, John, who's the Estates, who's the director responsible for all of that as well. But we got our youth forum involved, and I got the youth forum to talk to the councillor about what that was like in terms of the experience of families who have children in a wheelchair or different things. And so actually getting involved with them to help to, encourage them to talk directly to our councillors. And this year they've agreed to fund a a crossing for us. So yeah, being able to go and see the youth forum, they're the people who I wanted to tell first, that we'd got this news, that we'd got that funding. It'll take about a year to put in place because it's quite a complicated road system. But things like that, I think, they're not about our healthcare, but they are about people's experiences, safety, how it feels to come to a site. But then there's other broader things as well that are, like I say, about people's life in hospital, and just thinking about that more practically for people around how we help give food or laundry facilities, things that if you imagine you're with your own children, you're kind of living life at home, things need to happen, don't they? So that life needs to kind of transfer into a hospital. So there'll be things like that I get involved with sometimes that are just about helping to facilitate. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. I'll move on. We'll talk about why there. I can see I don't want to put you on the spot. Maybe while this next song's on, I'll ask Fabian if there's any other questions to grill you with. But we will come back and really keen to talk about kind of children and growing up now, because obviously that's something you're very passionate about. But we've had someone else do another request, which is brilliant. You can send yours in studio at sheffieldhospitalradio.co.uk or on the WhatsApp 07900 339 429. But David has messaged. He's a patient in the Northern General. Morning, David. He says, hello, Michael and Ruth. Can we play some Cool in the Gang and dedicate it to all the staff looking after him and to his wife, Margaret, who's visiting later today? So, yes, I hope this brightens up your day and the ward. It's a bit of Cool in the Gang celebration. All the best, David, with your recovery. That was Rihanna, We Found Love. Ruth, why that song? That's one that you'd picked as well.
Yeah, I love it. I love dancing, love music, and if this song comes on anywhere, then I'd be the first up to dance. And then if I get home after a long day at work or something, I just need to do so, I'd put this on and dance about the kitchen. But it reminds me of family and different friendships and things, and I love it.
Music's so good for those kind of
really
memories, aren't
really
they?
is, yeah.
And I suppose building on that then, and you've talked so well and so passionately about not just the kind of the care that you provide across your services for children, but the kind of supporting them and improving their health and reducing inequalities out there in the community. So what do you think are some of the challenges for children nowadays, maybe compared to 20 years ago or 150 years ago?
Yeah, well, I think if we look specifically at Sheffield and South Yorkshire, there are 450,000 children, young people who live in South Yorkshire, right from babies up to 24, 25 years old. That's what we'd kind of class as a young person. And in South Yorkshire, 1 in 4 of those are living in poverty. So the breadth of, or the range of circumstances that children and young people are living in really varies. You've got some very upper class parts of South Yorkshire, but we've got an awful lot. And sadly, that does feel like that's increasing in terms of the level of health inequality that we're seeing. And then we've got other things across, particularly Sheffield and South Yorkshire as well, which are things like attendance at school. So we've got some of the worst rates actually in our areas for attendance at primary and secondary school. And so all of those things that make up a child's life, whether that be about really good food, warm houses, good education, are things that are more and more at risk, really. And then I think the other big challenge a big challenge for children and young people now is around mental health and well-being. So we've seen that since COVID, that's changed enormously. So it's had an impact on the children and young people who are part of COVID, but also on people who are now parents of children who, then kind of at that time as well. So all of those things really make up a different kind of societal need, really. And we see that within South Yorkshire and the children and young people that we see. And on a practical level, that could be about a patient presenting in our emergency department with breathing difficulties. And actually the root cause of that is about bad housing. So, we'll be more and more working across with other services like housing or education or others, to work out how we can help families get out of that. So I think for children today, they're facing enormous societal changes and challenges, as well as then, we're asking a lot of them through an education system as well, and I think it feels really tricky. And that's part of why, as an organisation that's solely focused on children and young people, it feels so important to be raising the profile of that.
And how are you doing that? How are you getting? You've talked about the youth forum, but what's the other things within the organisation and within your staff and culture? I suppose in some ways, are you helping families with some of those things?
Yeah, so we do lots of practical things now, which are about helping people either have conversations that might be tricky, but also providing information. So we have Citizens Advice Bureau, link workers, peer supporters who are helping families to access things that they might not realise that they can access. But then we're doing lots of other practical things. So one of the ways that we use artificial intelligence now is in our outpatients department. So we have a way of looking at who's due to attend for appointment. It will predict who might not come to an appointment. And then so we follow up. We've got a team that follows up with those families and just checks in with them about whether or not they're okay for their appointment. And some of the feedback as part of that has been about the affordability of people coming into, if they have to come to hospital for that. So we're able then to have conversations with people about either moving their appointment so it's closer to payday, which is, sadly, that's the circumstances people are facing, or finding ways. There are routes actually where you can get reimbursement for transport to hospital. But also just starting to look then at how we can help coordinate care in a way that enables people to access it in the best possible way. I mean, what's great now is that there's more and more conversation about public transport, how we improve that across South Yorkshire. Having free transport for children makes a big difference as well, if you think that there's siblings that are coming. So there's some quite practical things, and it means it has changed our attendance in our appointments as well, because it means that we can personalise that care and have conversations with people. I mean, another big thing is around food. So accessing food, if you imagine you're staying in hospital, that the costs can be high, whether that's about travel, but then once you're in hospital, accessing food actually for children or siblings and families can cost a lot as well. So we work with another charity called Food Works in Sheffield, and they help us with pre-prepared food. So there's a fridge on a ward that will have pre-prepared meals where you can buy that for £1 and then you can heat it up on the ward as well. You can go to our canteen and ask for a meal for Theo. That's a jacket potato and beans, which is a free meal for children. So more and more we're just thinking about what are the ways that make it easier for our families.
Must make such a, kind of, you say small things, but must make such a difference for allowing and enabling families to access your services.
Yeah, I think it's about that. Some of it's about training for all of our colleagues who are able to ask some of those questions, which can be tricky as well. And coming back to mental health, it's a big part of a young person's life. And the earlier that we start in that, we have some infant services that help us to do that as well. So the earlier that we start that in life, the better. Yeah.
Well, your last song that you'd requested was an ABBA song. And I picked this one because I thought it linked to that, but it's clearly a big one for your family. It is for mine. Do you want to introduce this and we'll play this? Ruth?
Yeah, I love ABBA. Absolutely love them. And this is slipping through my fingers, which, given my son is 30 on Monday, that's making me feel like he's slipping. But, I'm holding tight at times as well. But yeah, I love this song. Thank you.
Not a dry eye in the studio.
So nice.
Ruth, it's been absolutely amazing having you. I don't know, the 2 hours have lasted about 12 minutes in my head. So thank you. It's just been brilliant.
No, it's absolutely flown by. I've loved it though, and well done. I just think it's brilliant. It's a great setup, and I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, no, and do come again, and maybe next time we'll get Fabian
Maybe.
live on air. But no, thank you ever so much. Thank
you.
you for all that you do, and for everyone, look out for those Pride of Lions. Have a Pride of Yorkshire, sorry. Have a fantastic week this week wherever you are. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you at the same time next week.